Welcome back to the People Stage, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited about our next presentation. We have with us Lisa Block. Lisa, I'm bringing you up onto the stage right now, so please turn your camera and mic on, and then the stage will be all yours.
Hello, hello, hello. How are you?
Oh, great to see you, Lisa. Thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome.
All right, the stage is yours. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa, and I am a recovering segregationist. What would you say if I told you that you were a fan of segregation? I know that immediately some of you are taken by surprise at that statement. Some of you may have even started to gather a defense against my position, but I really want you to take a moment to hear me out. I know that accusing you of being a fan of segregation is not one of the most popular or politically correct things for me to do. But we're not here just to be politically correct, are we? We are here in this wonderful conference to facilitate an exchange of ideas, an exchange that will bring forth change. And change only comes on the heels of long-standing truth. So if you will allow me, I would love the opportunity to introduce a different perspective. I believe that segregation has gotten a bad rap. There are times, whether we wish to believe it or not, that segregation is not necessarily bad. And I would venture to say that I can prove that there are specific circumstances in which segregation is entirely appropriate. For instance, my food. Now, I want to go on the record and say I have a beautiful set of slides that I can send you, but for some reason it's not casting. So I'm going to let you imagine in your mind that I'm showing you a piece of food all wrapped up all over each other. Me personally, I am the kind of person that cannot stand for my food to touch. I mean, when the veggies are migrating over to my potatoes, something happens to me. I cannot stand rebellious food. It has to be in its own particular space. So I guess you could say that I am a fan of food segregation. Now, I'm certain that there's going to be someone that's going to be like, Lisa, get over it. It's no big deal. You know, it all ends up in the right place. But I believe that you are part of the problem. We need order. My food has to be in order. Okay, so if I'm not going to just stay right in that little comedic vein, what about clothes? I am a woman who loves clothes, and I am for the segregation of my clothes. Think about it. If I make a mistake and I place a red blouse in with my favorite white blouse, I am mortified. It's just the idea that my red blouse and all of its pigment has tainted the water and now is spilled onto my pure white blouse. Oh my gosh, it's devastating for me. You know what that means, right? That means that something beyond my control has changed my favorite blouse. Oh, wait. We're venturing into deep water here now because originally we were talking about clothing. It seems insignificant, but what if we took that same analogy and applied it to people? It would have seemed that we're not discussing laundry anymore. For the sake of conversation, let's just begin to consider for a moment, what if we held that same belief as it related to people? Way back in Jim Crow times, they had a fear of this thing called race mixing. And before we talk about it in detail, I want to ask you guys a question. Are you ready? When I said the word segregation in my initial statement, did your mind automatically gravitate to race? If it did, can you tell me why? I only ask you because if you go back and you look at what I said, I never actually said race at all. All I said was segregation. And segregation merely means the state of separating someone or something apart from people or other things. So what made you tie that word into race? Is it because I'm a Black woman? Now, listen, I don't want you guys to get sensitive. I've been Black all day. I'm going to be Black by the end of this talk, so it's okay for us to mention it, okay? I am perfectly happy in my Blackness. But my question that I'm posing to you, I'm asking you that question because I need to know why you immediately thought about race when I mentioned that word. That, my friends, is why this talk is so important. And for a moment, I want to go back to my laundry. No, this isn't about how to get your whitest whites, although I have a 16-year-old daughter. And so if anyone is doing that talk this weekend, send me the link and I will be sure to I'll make sure that I'll attend. But I want to talk about my analogy. I want to talk about the comparison of my red blouse and my white blouse. I showed you how the potency of the red color could somehow taint what I viewed as a pure, beautiful white blouse. And that, my friends, is segregation in a nutshell. Friedrich Nietzsche said, laundry is the only place where we should be separated by color. And as progressive and as beautiful as that sentiment was, it was not echoed by his counterparts. In fact, in the years of Jim Crow, there was a very real fear of what would happen if races were allowed to mix. This way of thinking was very extreme and very divisive, and unfortunately, very prevalent in those times. The lawmakers literally thought that by intermingling with African Americans or other races that were not white, or even acknowledging them, they would empower them to feel human and, dare I say, equal, and that was not okay. Because if it were to happen, their life would change and be a lot like my blouse, mixed, integrated, and tainted. Martin Luther King and several other community leaders worked tirelessly to bring forth change via the civil rights movement. And even with the amazing work that they have done, and so many have continued, they are still plagued by segregation. We are still plagued by segregation. Let's go back in our minds to 1964, when the Civil Rights Act was passed in the United States. That required an immediate revocation of segregation in all states. We suddenly saw separate groups of people that were conditioned to be apart, thrust into the same spaces. This policy of inclusion was meant not only to equalize opportunities, but to create a greater society. And I'm not blind. I can understand that the United States has had a tumultuous past. They've often been criticized for their treatment of certain groups in this country, and we're not alone. Many countries all over the globe have had tons of demons buried beneath the soil of their history books. But here in the United States, this past, it's come back to haunt us. Some would argue that this past has come back so vehemently because it never actually left. You guys, segregation is just a word. Yet when I say it, how do you feel? What emotions does it ignite? Is it embarrassment? Outrage? Without a doubt, there are those of you that were offended, and rightfully so. I made an ambitious statement. I can bet that almost immediately some of you jumped to the defense and you tried to build a case as to why there was no way it could be accurate. Not me, you would say. There is no way. She's completely off base. And my apologies. I know that I wasn't invited here to offend. I was invited here to exchange an idea. And though different, the idea stands. And we have to be honest with ourselves. Segregation was here. Segregation, it is here. Have you accepted that segregation will always be with us, or do you view it as it should be viewed? An enemy, an adversary that's sole purpose is to divide us. My desire is to show you the places where we've allowed segregation to exist so that we can find new and creative ways to eradicate it. During the civil rights movement, we saw people standing together, Black and white, fighting for the fair and equal treatment of others. We saw people unified and witness firsthand what can be done if we are intentional about combining our resources and never backing down. We saw the speeches, the newspaper clippings, the interviews. We witnessed laws changing and people seeing each other clearly for the first time. As a little girl growing up, it was literally a tradition in my house to watch the I Have a Dream speech every January in celebration of Martin Luther King's birthday. I thought for sure segregation had to be gone. It had to be. Martin Luther King had his own day. A Black man in America had a holiday, and a bank holiday at that. Surely we've arrived. But alas, we're not as far along as we thought. And then it dawned on me, segregation isn't the problem. I mean, it's bad, okay? Let's acknowledge that it's bad. But there's something far worse, and I can't believe that I missed this. Segregation is just a tool that this horrible, debilitating, demoralizing agenda has used to keep us divided. Do you know what it is? It's supremacy. We don't have to waste time with segregation. If we combat our natural need to be superior to other people in all confines of society, that barrier will be broken because it will have nothing to fuel it. Make no mistake, supremacy is a cancer and it doesn't play nice. In fact, it's not happy until it's eaten through everything that it touches. Think about what that means in our lives, in our jobs, in our society. Supremacy is rooted in a singular mindset, and it is that mindset that drives us to naturally exclude people that we deem inferior to us. We have a natural desire to win, and I don't blame you, but we want all the credit. But you have to be careful because it is this frame of thought that could prove detrimental to the very endeavors we want to achieve. If history has taught us nothing else, it has taught us that we shine when we are collaborative. We can't afford to go forward with a singular approach. It is when we work synergistically that we have more opportunities to create better solutions at great speed and in greater depth. We are segregated because we are overrun with leaders that are so insecure that they're hiding behind this stronghold of supremacy. They don't want to be inclusive. They want to be first. And they are not visionaries. They can't be. A visionary has the gift of seeing what something can be from all perspectives. And a supremacist can only see themselves. Friends, we are in a different time. We are in a time where the segregation conversation is not just applicable to one issue. We have seen supremacy use segregation to isolate us. It's divided us professionally. Think about men and women. Think about the fight for the right to vote, the fight for equal pay. Friends, it's just supremacy in a different outfit. We're divided economically with the upper and the lower and the middle class, and we're obliged to actually affirm these labels as if it's not anything more than a modern day caste system. And it's even affecting us technologically. The way we serve our customers, the way we serve each other, the way we serve the world. For a moment, consider all of the wonderful additive manufacturing companies represented here today. We have to make a mindset shift from where we are in the market and intentionally decide that instead of highlighting the differences between us, we will embrace them and even celebrate them for the better advancement of the industry and technology as a whole. If we are to do this, we have to change our minds about what limitations exist and decide whether or not we truly want to overcome socially and technologically. Like so many areas of our lives, we are better together. I want to tell you a little story, if I may. I was recently in position to bid a pretty substantial project, and I always loved the idea of collaborating. The end user had a clear need, and we had a part of the technology. When some of the best in the industry gathered together to begin to address the needs of this customer, we all had amazing ideas of how to get the job done. There was just one problem. I only had part of the solution. And I know that my counterparts in the industry, they also had pieces of the puzzle. But the most tragic thing happened. It is my belief that individually as a company, I had part of the best solution, but I didn't have something that was complete. My counterparts had part of an amazing solution, but they didn't have something that was complete. And so there we were, all together, there, incomplete. and unwilling to collaborate. I wish I could say the sad part was the fact that I couldn't bid the project, but that's not what was sad. What grieved me the most was the knowledge that I could have helped someone if we were all willing to be collaborative. We allowed our need for supremacy or the need for us to be the one that is first, or the desire for us to be the one that gets to release the press release and tell everybody the impressive thing we did this week. We allowed those desires to stop us from serving. And that is what technology is supposed to do. It's supposed to help. And yet here we are, stuck in our own little boxes, unwilling to work together. Friends, in parallel to this social unification, there is an unspoken segregation existing in 3D printing technologies that is holding this industry back. The origins of our industry set the stage for ongoing segregated human and technological behaviors that still retain harmful ideas and misrepresentations, most like those that we've been fighting for so long in the civil rights movement. As you can see, additive manufacturing is diverse and vast in its offerings. I don't believe that there is a single manufacturing technique that is as diverse as 3D printing, yet in a lot of ways, we've only just begun. I remember my first day working for Hybrid. I actually came from a fashion background and I had no idea what I was in for. And most people go to work on your first day and you have a nice little cup of coffee and you sign your paperwork. Oh, but not me. I didn't have the benefit of starting my first day on the job in an office. I was on a plane and on my way to Rapid in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I thought my boss had lost his mind. I mean, who unleashes a new employee at a trade show on their first day? At the time, I thought it was ridiculous, but in hindsight, I realized that I had been given a gift. You see, my vision for additive was expanded by my immediate exposure to what was possible. I was given an opportunity to see technology that was not like mine. And because of my inexperience in this sector, I viewed them all from a place of appreciation. So in my mind, in that moment, the possibilities were endless. It was my reverence for the diversity represented in the industry that changed the way I saw additive and the lenses I viewed it through. I remember when I was a kid, my mom used to always say, "Okay, Lisa, don't forget who you are." I used to look at her with absolute disbelief, like that was something I could actually forget, but I understood what she meant. She would go on to explain to me that my conduct was a representation of our family. And the worst thing you can do is bring shame to your family name. In case you don't know, you are all members of my family. If my slideshow was working, you'd see all the 7 additive families. So let's use your imagination right now. But you are members of my family. Of a big, bold, loud, beautiful, diverse family. We are each uniquely gifted and serve a supreme purpose in our identity and in our industry. The understanding is with me all the time. Every time I see all of you at a trade show, every time I see something new that you made, I see the 7 families of additive manufacturing. But alas, sometimes I think some of you see us separate, not unified, broken apart. Additive is too often depicted in isolation from mainstream manufacturing. Rarely is the interdependence of AM on other manufacturing technologies even not acknowledged. Moreover, the segregated technological approaches within the 7 AM technology types are reflected in our community culture. There is a tremendous untapped synergy in enabling multiple additive manufacturing techniques to work together, and even more in the communal unity that we can experience by elevating our mindset. As a marketing professional, I wish that I saw more articles and press releases that were more intentional about communicating the beauty in the diversity of our various family members, rather than just defaulting to speaking about the industry in generality. It is my opinion that this happens because though people are fascinated and intrigued by additive, they still have a lack of understanding of what AM is truly capable of. And who could blame them, right? How can you possibly convey the potential of an industry that is constantly evolving? So we have to take back the conversation. This is not about being allowed in the conversation, but rather spearheading it so that people clearly understand what makes us diverse and why there is room for us all. This is the time for us to make clear who we are. This is the time to educate those outside of the industry and within so that we can give the tech the freedom that it needs to shine. But when the path to adoption is cloudy, everything else slows down, fewer solutions can be found, and even less advancements can be made. And finally, I believe that we are all integral in this paradigm shift. I believe that it will be our willingness to acknowledge not only our strengths, but the strengths of others and the contributions of other additive types that will serve as a catalyst for our amazing industry. We have a beautifully diverse array of amazing technologies, and we have a unique opportunity to make a personal commitment to the advancement of the industry so that we can see our imprint on the world. If we were more inclusive in our voicing, I believe that our industry would be propelled forward and integral in manufacturing environments that remain untapped. Our family, our additive family, has unlimited potential, and this is an important time. This is the time for us, the collective, a united body of differing talents and strengths. Friends, I believe the key to breaking down barriers in our industry, and for any industry for that matter, is to understand that we can do so much more, not in spite of our differences, but because of our differences. We are a family. We are not perfect. There are limitations to what we can do. Yes, LMD has limitations. Material extrusion has limitations. Every member of our family has something that they are limited in, but that's what makes us special. It is the realization that just like we have had to learn to appreciate the contributions that other races have made to society, or women have made, or people from different economic backgrounds have made, we have a unique opportunity to see each other clearly for the first time and realize one central idea: united we stand, and divided we fall. Friends, it boils down to this: we need to work together. Additive manufacturing has 7 families because it needs all 7. We need all 7 members of this family to deliver the fastest products or make the most beautiful parts and ensure a seamless production. So I ask again, with these things in mind, what would you say if I told you that you were a fan of segregation? Thank you.
Amazing. I never want to stop listening to you speak ever. I don't even want to come up here to interrupt Q&A, but we do somehow only have 5 more minutes with you, and I want to make sure that we can maximize those. So I'm just going to get right into the questions we have for you. First, there's an ask for any tips. How do we start and continue to hold these conversations for change with leadership at the companies we work for, gather data, and hold our companies accountable?
I think it is the bravery to have the hard conversation. I think what we've done, and I can understand it, cancel culture has put a real fear into people, right? It gives you a fear about truly expressing your heart, but there needs to be a safe zone, especially in the midst of companies. We need to facilitate a room, a boiler room, where we sit down and we exchange ideas, and we know that there will be no repercussions when we say that we don't understand something. When we do that, I believe we'll see growth in our companies at a rate we can't even anticipate.
I love it. I love it so much. Next question. How do you suggest that employees confront the us and them attitudes in the workplace in terms of our tech and their tech, our offering and their offering, and our type of people and the other kind?
I think what we're all going to do individually, we're going to have to do individually, is dedicate to changing the way we voice conversations, our tech versus their tech. I know that when I refer people to other technologies that can do things that my technology can't do, I don't say, well, they, this. I say, well, we, but my portion of the we is laser metal deposition, whether their portion may be material extrusion or whatever. So I think when we personally take ownership of the us versus them conversation, I think people then become uncomfortable being, without being inclusive. I think they feel a requirement to do so.
All right. What role do you think women's organizations, such as Women in 3D Printing, have to play in breaking down segregationist barriers between technologies, companies, and people?
Oh, wow. Great question. I think exactly what you're doing now, facilitating an environment for difficult conversations to be made. Like it's hard. We don't want to talk about race. I'm surprised that everybody didn't tuck tail and run out of here when, when I mentioned it. But I think exactly what you're doing, continuing to have the conversations, continuing to provide a forum to do so. I don't know if you can hear me. You're frozen. Can you hear me? No. I think you're frozen. Okay.
You can check the Q&A tab.
Maybe we can answer in the meantime.
Okay.
I don't know what happened to Sarah.
I don't know. She froze, but that's okay.
Yeah,
Welcome.
exactly. Yeah.
Hello, sorry about that. Sarah did freeze, so her internet did drop, but we'll continue with the Q&A if that's okay with you.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
All right, so we got Sienna Duke from Toolbox Creative. In the marketing industry, how can we do better in communicating the beauty of diversity in AM? And what is your vision for how we can more effectively share the significance and its importance?
I think that we need to, as marketing professionals, have a more concerted effort and purposely and intentionally contact each other, doing more collaborative marketing materials that state that very thing. Because I think that as much as I love what we do, there's so many other beautiful things that other people do. And I'm always fascinated by it. My favorite time is walking around to see what else is being done. But I think marketing professionals don't always feel the freedom to intermingle with other areas of the additive family. So I think if we make that available, I think that would be a great place to start.
Can't agree more. Got to merge everyone to collaborate more intertwinely together.
Absolutely.
We also have another question here. What role do you think women's organizations such as Women in 3D Printing have to play in breaking down segregationist barriers?
Okay, I think that's the one that we got cut off on. So what I would say is exactly what you're doing now. Bringing forth the conversation, being willing to have a difficult conversation, even if we're uncomfortable, right? Continuing to have forums like this where we facilitate great conversations and allow people to exchange ideas.
Super duper. Well, I know we're pretty much time's up for this presentation, but it was so amazing to have you on stage sharing your expertise. Really appreciate it.
And I'm happy to share the slides. I'm sorry you guys didn't see the slides. I'm happy to share them with you. They're good. They were good slides. I'm happy to share them.
All right. Well, I'm sure they will want it. So definitely do pass it on. And we look forward to reconnecting with you later today. Thanks.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Bye. Thank
you guys have a great day.
You too.
Bye.